Hello, this is D and I'm back with another video. Well, it's been about 3 weeks since I've uploaded my last video, and to be quite honest with you guys, when it comes to technology, there hasn't been a lot of stuff that's been hitting the airwaves. So know today that I do have some really exciting news to share with Xbox and PC fans alike. Now, yesterday Microsoft held their GameStack conference, and a lot of information came out on the Xbox Series X and S consoles. Now, we're going to primarily concentrate on that, but I do want to note that all of the features that I'm talking about today will also be coming to the RDNA 2 GPUs that are on PC. Now, AMD has announced that FidelityFX is now available on PC and the Xbox Series S and X consoles. Now, this is a host of tools that help with the graphical effects on the next generation RDNA 2 GPUs. Now, they include variable rate shading, contrast adaptive sharpening, screen space reflection, and ray tracing shadow denoising, to name a few. Now, some of these features are really going to help the next generation consoles deliver higher frame rates and, of course, a better looking image quality. Now, variable rate shading, which I've talked about a lot on this channel, will increase the frame rate in a lot of the games by allowing some of the details that you don't see to not have the same precision, which will result in a higher frames per second. Now, it's a fact that the next generation consoles are not as powerful as their PC counterparts, so some compromises have to be made on these next generation titles. Now, with ray tracing, we see when it's enabled, a lot of the games are like 30 frames per second. Now, some of these features will allow for a higher frame rate, but most importantly, the shadow denoiser for ray tracing will allow for a cleaner image quality when it's not such a high resolution with their ray tracing performance. Now, I don't want to get into all of the details, that will come at a later date, but I gotta say I'm really excited for this tool set to finally make its way to the next generation consoles. Now, when the Xbox Series X launched, a lot of people were saying that it wasn't performing as good as the PlayStation 5. Now, to many of us, we already knew the reason why. It was because Microsoft hadn't enabled the full tool set of the next generation consoles. Now this is starting to come into fruition, and I do believe in the near future we're going to see some of these games really stand out from the competition with these features enabled on the Xbox Series devices. Now, there was no announcement of this coming to the PlayStation 5. I do expect at a later date that Sony will get some type of implementation of FidelityFX. I do know that it will not have all of the features such as variable rate shading, as that is not available on the PlayStation 5. Now, I did get a little bit confused with yesterday's announcement, as I thought they were saying that the FidelityFX Super Resolution was now available to the developers. Now, they did make an announcement on this, but this will come at a later date. Now, this is AMD's DLSS-like approach, and it will use AI, and I do expect really good results, especially when it comes to the consoles. Now, some of the consoles, like I mentioned earlier, when you're ray tracing a game, it goes down to 30 frames per second. Now, with their FidelityFX Super Resolution, you can see a situation where these games are reaching 60 frames per second from a lower resolution reconstructed with AI to a higher resolution, and if the results are to be believed what we're hearing behind the scenes, you won't be able to really tell the difference. Now, of course, we got to see this in action. This is all on paper. It does sound good, but this is a feature that is coming at a later date to the Xbox consoles as well as PC. Now, I'm just going to read a little bit of AMD's press release, and like usual, I'll leave a link in the description down below so you guys can check it out for yourself. Now, they go on to say that today we are very happy to announce that AMD FidelityFX is now available for Xbox. This news makes it even easier than before to write cross-platform games, with developers able to access select AMD FidelityFX effects with specific optimizations for Windows and Xbox. Game developers can now utilize further platform-specific optimizations with AMD FidelityFX straight from the Xbox Series X and S game development kits. This development is very exciting to all at AMD who have worked to deliver these effects into the hands of even more developers, and we will continue to strive for our highly optimized effects to be at the forefront of cross-platform game development. Xbox game developers interested in getting started with AMD FidelityFX can do so with the latest game development kit, where samples for contrast adapt sharpening, variable rate shading, and ray trace shadow denoiser technologies are available. So this is fantastic news that the tools are finally coming to the Xbox Series X, and I think it's well needed. Now, I do know for a fact that the Xbox Series X is more powerful than Sony's next generation machine. In all honesty though, some of the games are not performing as such. Now with the update to the GDK, with all these new tools at developers' hands, I do expect games to be a lot more optimized on the next generation consoles from Microsoft, and I do believe once this happens, you will start to see the divide and the differences between both next generation consoles from Microsoft and Sony. Anyways, I want to know what you guys think about FidelityFX coming to the next generation consoles from Microsoft as well as the PC. Do you think this will have a big impact on the games? Like I said earlier, I do believe that this toolset will allow Microsoft to really stretch its legs out on its next generation hardware. I'm not quite sure how this will affect the PlayStation 5, as AMD has not made an announcement on when it's coming to that console. I'm not quite sure how they will use FidelityFX Super Resolution on the PlayStation 5 with the lack of hardware acceleration for the machine learning. All these questions will be answered in time, but I want to know what you guys think, so let me know in the comment section down below. And like I usually say, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.